2, 1.
Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Room 1221 Live. You already know, if you're looking for experts' advice on anything relating to your sexual reproductive health, this is where to find it. Today, we're having a very important conversation, and as always, I've got two professionals with me here to walk us through it. I'm joined here by Edwina and Kekeli. Welcome to Room 1221 Live.
Yes.
Please
Thank you.
introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Edwina and I work with the University of Ghana Careers and Counseling Center. I'm a counseling psychologist there.
Welcome, Edwina.
Thank you.
I am Kekeli Jekete. I work as an associate attorney with Nate Law Firm in Adabraka. I'd like to think of myself as a lifelong student, I guess. So, yes.
Welcome again to both of you. It's awesome to have you here. So today we're talking about consent and what it looks like generally in your relationships and even online. So, Edwina, what is enthusiastic consent?
So I think that enthusiastic consent is when you actually give your free will to say, when you say yes to something, not being coerced or not being forced to say yes, but you actually want to say yes to something.
Let me piggyback on that a little. What would coercion look like? in this
Coercion is
consent
more like
context?
being forced, sometimes someone wants you to say yes, but won't say directly, so just be dilly-dallying, saying nice things, but you actually want to say no. And then, so the person is like coercing you to,
So where coercion has
or
happened,
luring you
Ah.
to say yes.
I'll come back to that. I have a few more questions. But Kekeli,
Yes, please.
what about consent in the legal context? What does
Yes.
that mean?
Okay. So legally, consent is treated in different ambits, right? There are different forms of consent to contract, consent to marry, and of course, consent to any form of sexual activity. Generally speaking, a person under 12 cannot consent. When it comes to sexual activity, the age is 16. Any form of sexual activity, the age of consent is 16. Now, despite the fact that a person above the age of 16 can consent, there are still certain vitiating factors, we call them vitiating factors, that sort of reduce the strength of the consent. So one is the coercion she's mentioned. Coercion will fall under duress legally, where you are put under duress. We also have deceit, but deceit, I've been seeing a lot of conversation about deceit. Deceit is very specific in that deceit as to the nature and consequence of what is happening. So there's a case, for example, where a choir master lied to a girl that what he was doing was an activity to open her airways rather than actually having sex with her. But not deceit in the sense of I'll buy you a phone and then you don't, if you sleep with me and then I don't buy you a phone, then you say I've deceived you. Not that one. So there's duress, there's deceit, there's undue influence, where a person stands in a position of strong influence over the victim, such that the victim cannot independently think for themselves, and then they do go ahead to give consent. So when those factors come in, they have the effect of reducing the strength of the consent, right? And just to add a little bit, consent, as always, once given legally, if you give consent, you can take away consent.
Yeah.
No matter what is happening, no matter where you've reached, no matter how far you are, consent once given can always be taken away. It is not a single instance thing that once you consent at the beginning, you've consented entirely. In the same way, when you consent when you're getting married, it's not that you consented for the duration of the marriage. It is that consistently, whatever you're doing, at any point, you're entitled to a consent. So that's the legal part of it.
Okay, thank you, Kekeli. Now, Edwina, back to you. Kekeli mentioned duress, and you also mentioned coercion, and he also mentioned deception. I want to ask, right, in a case where I have been coerced, or maybe halfway through I decided I didn't want to do this anymore, already in our cultural context, the fact that I was having sex alone places me in a space where I'm disadvantaged in the terms of I can't go and talk to anybody. What do I do if I find myself in a situation like this?
Okay, so as Kekeli mentioned earlier, at any point in time, even when you said yes, at any point you can actually now say no, you don't want it. And I know that sometimes people feel like they have been they've already given their consent and then they don't know who to talk to. And if it should go far, everybody will say, but you started it. You said yes. You dressed this way. So more or less you've given consent. But I still think that even at the peak, if you say no, it should be no. And you can report it to anyone. If you feel like you were violated, you felt like you started and you said no, but the person still went on, you could report to anybody. I'm sure you can report to the police station. You could, there are sexual harassment pages around of people you could talk to. And even you can even talk to your parents. Sometimes I know talking to your parents can be some way, but the generation we are building, yes, but the generation we are building now is parents are open to such things. So you can actually talk to your parents and tell them that this is what is happening, this is what happened. Or you speak to a trusted person. But you should tell somebody, whatever the case is, you should tell somebody. You shouldn't keep it to yourself and feel guilty that, okay, I started it, but at a point I didn't want it. And so everybody would judge me for that. I think you should always report to someone.
Okay, thank you. Now, Kekeli, if you've been reported, if you are a man and you didn't respect consent, or even if you're a lady and you didn't respect consent and you have been reported now to any authority, what consequences would be waiting for you at the other side of the door?
Been the subject of a lot of online debates for a while. So the regular thing, what the law expects is that you are called to the station, your statement is taken, if there's the need to process you to court, you are processed, evidence is provided, you are convicted, all that. But we can't ignore the social aspects of all these things because a lot of times sexual assault is considered to be violent. It's often seen as a violent thing. So where a person goes to report a case of sexual assault, that doesn't fit that violent description. Like where there was consent and then consent has been taken away and the person doesn't stop and it doesn't result in any actual physical harm. It's a little harder for the person reporting because when you get to the station, if you're not lucky and you don't get to the sexual harassment unit or you just get a random person sat at the counter, they will hit you with the typical someone alcohol. So you understand? Now, with regards to men, and because unfortunately in this country only men can rape, women cannot rape. If a woman rapes a man, it is indecent assault, it's not rape. But which is a problem. We need to change that. But there's a lot of conversation about that the consequences on men for false accusations are really, really serious. And it's been going back and forth because there are those who argue that, well, the consequence on a woman who is reporting that is actually quite large. You will be ostracized no matter what happens. Whether you're married, unmarried. If we take the case of the senator in Nigeria who reported, who is alleging sexual misconduct on the part of the Speaker of Parliament, Senate, sorry, you would notice that there has been a lot of ostracizing of her, if not for the fact that the international outlets took it up. She would have been put to the side altogether, right? So women also suffer from these things, even if they are reputable women, even if they are women of stature in society, they still suffer. When it comes to the men, however, a lot of times when it comes to sexual assault, there isn't that much evidence to prove that sexual assault happened. So you could end up going to court and nothing would come out of it. And you feel like you've been vindicated because you were never convicted. But when you've dealt with sexual assault cases, you realize that the non-conviction doesn't mean it didn't happen. Right? So the right thing that should happen is you are punished for it. But it doesn't always result in a punishment. And even the reputational harm. In our society, a lot of men who have been accused of rape, big men who have been accused of rape, they are still big men. So,
Yeah.
There's that, but it's a bit of a murky situation as to how we deal with that in terms of ensuring that rape accusations are accurate, preventing false reports, and ensuring that people's reputations are not damaged permanently if it turns out that it is false.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Edwina, back to you. Before we move on to the next part of the conversation, I just want to touch lightly on the dressing aspect of it. Could you please tell our young men how much what she's wearing is not an invitation?
Yes, definitely. What she's wearing is not an invitation. Even if she decides to expose any part of her body, it's not an invitation for you to think that she has given you consent, or she's advising you to, or she's luring you to come to her and all that. It's against the law. I think it's against the law for you to actually think that she's actually saying yes if she decides to expose some part of her breast or expose some part of her legs and all that. You should learn how to control yourself. You should learn how to control yourself. If somebody is dressed in a particular way, you think you don't like it, close your eyes, move another direction, go somewhere else and all that, than thinking that because she will report you. I mean, if she reports you, you will be accused for that. And I think it's also the other way around. Also, we also always think, as Kekeli, always think that it is the ladies who are being sexually harassed and all that, but men too are actually sexually harassed. You see, sometimes a man keeps his beard, he's looking all nice and all that, and then the lady comes and she's holding it. And I mean, if he says no, it is no. Don't assume that he's a man, so he likes being touched. He likes his head, you rolling your hands through his head and all that. It's also sexual harassment. Yes, so it goes both sides and both ways.
If I may piggyback on that, just to say that, as I said earlier, the social context of everything unfortunately comes in, where if there's a situation where both parties are arguing about the rape, so let me know, so the unwanted sexual contact, where the woman says it was unwanted, where the man says it was wanted, and now it becomes a question of he said, she said. The unfortunate reality of our society is that they will consider those surrounding things about it. So I would err on the side of caution generally. As a young man, you can never say that, oh, what she wore gave me the right to go ahead. But I wish we didn't live in a society where law enforcement and members of the justice system, they didn't think like that as well. But there are many members of the justice system who will come back to what you are wearing to say that, oh, but what you were wearing, all that. It's very, very concerning. And it's something that I have seen a number of times and I hate it, but unfortunately, so I hate to be the one to tell someone to dress. I really hate it because I'm a strong believer in do you and feel free. But in this context, it can affect how your matter is handled. So just that.
Yeah, that's true, because especially in our culture, sometimes we tend to think that we are living in a foreign culture, but this is also in Ghana. This is Africa. And you will definitely be judged based on this. It's not right that they will judge you based on how you dress, but because of our culture, people will tend to go that direction and say that, okay, you were wearing this, you were doing this, and all that. So as Kekeli said, you would definitely be judged based on how you were dressed. It's not right, but that's what will happen. Contributes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you both. Now let's move on to the sexting part of the conversation. Those of you who have just been, hi, what's up? What are you wearing? Listen closely. So, consent in the digital space when it comes to sharing intimate videos, pictures, sexting, all of those things in that space. Kelly, let me start with you. I don't want to ask if it's legal, right? Because
So as a starting point, it became a point of concern for a while that our laws on criminalizing digital activity were quite old. So around between 2019 to about 2022, we passed a number of laws that tried as much as possible to look at reining in the digital space. Financial laws, things regarding data privacy, protection, all those things. So the Cybersecurity Act covers the bulk of this. But I have my issues with the Cybersecurity Act, right? So it depends on what is being sent and how it is being sent. If it is a child, automatically, no. It constitutes child pornography. So whether the child sent it themselves, someone else sent it, no. The issue comes when you have a situation where there are two children. So who are you prosecuting for what? Right? In other jurisdictions, they have what we call Romeo and Juliet laws, where if both persons are sufficiently young, or the gap between them is a year or two, so between let's say a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old, the law makes an exception for that. But the relationship existed when they were both minors. The law makes an exception. We don't have that. So I remember I dealt with a case where, I started with a case where both of them were quite young, and then we were prosecuting the guy, and then we left the girl. It was very interesting, but it wasn't my case, so I couldn't say anything. But yes. So if it is a child, absolutely not. If it is cyber stalking of a child as well, absolutely not. If it is non-consensual sharing of images, so you have somebody's inappropriate images, you are sending to another person without the original person's consent, that is also unlawful. Then yes, that is also unlawful. So every single share is a crime.
All those Snapchats,
Snapchat, Telegram,
All of them.
It's every single time you share it, criminal activity. Wow. Right. And then finally, if you're using it to blackmail or extort them, blackmail here could be for further sexual favors or for financial gain. That is also an offense. So somebody can obtain someone's nudes and then they'll text that person and say that I have the nudes, pay me this, or come here. I recently, someone came up to me with that complaint, and it took a while for us to actually find the person, right? So in that situation too, that is also a crime. And because the act is new, that one, if the police, they're excited by that one. They like that one. If they catch you, they're very excited because, yes, they will grip you because they get so many complaints and they're often not able to do anything. Yeah. So when they're actually able to pinpoint and say, oh, this is the person, we found you and all that, they are very excited by it. So yes, the Cybersecurity Act has criminalized some degree of online information, non-consensual sharing and everything. I have my issues with some of its limitations. But for now, when it comes to sexting, those are the things that you would have to look at.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to you. I have more questions. But before that, Edwina, you work with students. I know that if it's anyone having these conversations, they do it the most. What cases have you seen in your office, and what advice would you have for our viewers in terms of, being careful, being safe, and setting boundaries?
Yeah, I know it's a young person thing to want to share everything on social media. It's young to not so we have the long distance relationships, and it's I know it's a very young person thing, but you should always have in mind that online it's difficult to take something from online. The moment you share it, it is there. Now we say it's in the cloud.
Yeah.
It's easy for it to be found. Mm-hmm. So maybe at this time the person is your boyfriend, you think it is okay, so you're sending it to him. What if he breaks up with you? What happens? It is still there.
Revenge pornography is a thing.
Yeah, so there is revenge pornography. It's now that you shared it with him and things. So now how do you say it? Give me back my thing. I don't, or unsee it. It's not possible. The person has still seen it. Maybe the person has shared it somewhere. Even if the person hasn't even shared it, it is still somewhere in the cloud. Mm-hmm. And if somebody gets a hold of it, it will go against you. So just to be on the safer side, it's better you don't share. And Kekeli mentioned something earlier on. Maybe if you want to share it, you don't show your face. You don't show certain parts of you. That is obvious that this is you.
Yes.
But just on the safer side, just don't share it because the cloud doesn't lie. The internet will lie. You know, sometimes someone will say something and then some years to come, they'll go and dig online what the person said. And then the same as your nudes or whatever you have shared with someone, there's the words you were using. So sometimes it's not even a picture you're sharing, but sometimes the words you are using, the sexual words you're sending to someone and all that. They'll go and dig it out one day, and one day maybe you want to stand for some political position somewhere, and then someone will start digging because people do that. It's some people's job to actually go and dig for information about someone, especially when they want to destroy you. So when you are young, you think that, oh, nobody will see this, so I'm putting it out there. But then someone's job is also to also dig for such information, and they will find the information and put it out. So just on the safer side, I would say that don't put such information.
Briefly.
You heard that when I protect future use reputation and just stay on the safer side. Now, Kekeli.
Yes, please.
This Accra, there was this case of somebody sending unsolicited, spicy images and videos to women on the internet.
Oh, yes, I recall that. I recall that very well.
And the most that happened was that the women came on social media and were talking about it. I think last it became a foolish case.
It wasn't made a case, no, but I don't recall anybody actually reporting that. Actually,
yes. That brings me to my question. What does online consent look like, and what are the nuances also legally around that conversation?
So that is part of my concerns with our laws, right? That they haven't caught up as much. The only way I can think of that falling in our crimes is if you read like 2 or 3 different acts together. So the Electronic Communications Act says that if any existing offense is committed using digital means, then it is also an offense, which is a winding way of doing it. The act of sending unsolicited images may constitute obscene material. But the way the law defines obscene material is obscene material in public, right? Then the question comes of, does me sending it to your phone constitute publication in public? All those things are gaps that we need to fix in our laws. So I would take a bit of a step back from the legal position itself to say that generally when it comes to online consent, right, the main forms of online consent regard one, which people you connect with. So you have the option to choose who you connect with. In the same way, you have the option to choose who you are disconnecting from. In other jurisdictions, you are better able at, at taking steps against someone for sending you unsolicited images that are problematic. Here, and I hope this is not my inexperience showing, but here, I can't think of a specific legal provision that is there for you. But the best thing I can always say is that name and shame. Name and shame.
Does that even work?
Yes, name and shame. Name and shame. Unless the person doesn't care about any reputational issue. Because the funniest thing about naming and shaming is that if you name and shame and the person claims it's false, they have the option to sue you for defamation. And when you are sued for defamation, the truth is a defense. So now you will get to show the judge the picture. You will tell the judge, my lord, here it is at the whole plane. You understand? I don't really have to do anything about it. And you can even counter sue, right? So in those situations, yes, I would always advise naming and shaming. But with the stories I've gotten and the things people have told me that happens online, I don't know how effective naming and shaming will be. Because I've literally, I remember someone recently called me about somebody just called her video call and he was showing and like he was stroking himself and she was so confused. She doesn't know the person from anywhere. So this one, naming and shaming, is going to be harder, right? So the main things are control who you are connecting with, set boundaries. Don't do that thing where it happens and then you forgive, and set boundaries. Let it be clear that no, don't ignore it. Don't say, oh, he will know better, he will do it again. Set clear boundaries. Let the person know that you are not allowing them to do that at any point. That's if you want to maintain the friendship or the relationship. If you don't, end it. Cut it. Cut any form of online connection. It's your phone. Nobody can stop ringing. Just do it. Yeah.
Block them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Block it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Kekeli. Now let's move on to the last segment of this conversation. Let's talk about boundaries in relationships and consent in relationships. We've had issues of marital rape and rape in relationships come up. Edwina, let me start with you. If I'm a girlfriend or I'm a married woman, can I still be raped by my
Yes.
husband or my partner?
Yes, you can be raped. It still goes back to what we said about the consent. I mean, it is your body. It is you. If you don't feel like doing something and the person forces it, it's rape. Yes, even if you are married to me legally or whatever, and today I say I am not in the mood, and you say because you are my wife or you are my husband, you have to do
We
it,
are one
and
flesh.
you push.
We are one flesh.
We are one flesh, one body,
Yes.
and all that. So you push, you still push. It is rape, and you can go and report that I was raped. Of course, people will say that but he's your husband or she's your wife, so it's normal. But it is still rape. You can be raped in every situation. You can be raped.
Got it. Now, Kekeli,
Yes.
in a situation like this, if my husband raped me, he started out like, my head is aching, I'm tired, and he's like, you're my wife, I'll do what I want to do. I know that in Ghana, if I go and tell the police this thing right now, they might not help me. Should I call my lawyer instead, or what do I do?
The way you ask the question is a very common way of phrasing this hypothetical that I have an issue with. With all due respect, every time marital rape comes up, there's always an excuse of like infirmity on the woman, or you don't want to. It is what it is. You do not want to. You're entitled to. You don't have to give justification for refusing consent. You don't want to. But with this one, typically for married people, I would recommend going to the DOFSU unit of the police. Don't just go to the counter, because the DOFSU Act, the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit Act, covers domestic relationships, right? That includes boyfriend, that includes parents, that includes siblings, that includes spouses. So in that situation, they are more adept at handling abuse situations when it is domestic, as against the regular police officers who will say, "But your mother, but your brother, but your husband." Right? You understand that type of thing. So I would typically recommend going to them, explaining explaining how it happened. But even with them, I would admit that usually it is where it is repeated or consistent patterns, especially where it results in physical or emotional harm. Especially in those situations, more often than not, they would take steps and take action on it. As to calling your lawyer and pursuing a civil claim, you can, but usually that type of thing, it means you are divorcing already, right? So maybe you are divorcing and then you want to add it as part of it that there has been some assault and battery on you. I don't know that many lawyers would do that. They'll tell you, let's just focus on the divorce and go away. But you can. Theoretically, legally, you can. But generally, if you're in a marriage situation or you're in some kind of amorous context, I would advise going to DOFSU units and then going away.
Okay. All right. Thank you both once again for joining us. But before we say goodbye to our viewers, what final words do you have for them in terms of this whole sexting, consent, and safe boundaries in relationships conversation?
Okay, so my final word is that, especially when it comes to the sexting and all that, it can affect you emotionally. It can actually cause trauma to you, especially when you were sexting with someone, sending you pictures, and after that, it's being used against you and all that. So just to avoid all these emotional things and avoid all the trauma, future traumas and all that. That's why we say that don't even do it, just to avoid all these things. And then also consent. Just know that you should always give consent to somebody, even when you are in the act or having sex with someone. Give consent. Say okay, yes. And then even with the guys, if you are asking the lady for consent, make sure she clearly said yes. You can actually hear her say yes, I'm okay with it, and all that. Not a silent yes, a yes that you can actually let her say it. Let her, before you get into it, just so that you are not accused that you forcefully did anything and someone doesn't accuse you. So, okay, you're in the act and all that, and then make sure you hear it clearly that, okay, I want to do this with you before you actually attempt to do it. If not, just don't. Don't.
Thank you, Edwina.
Typically, I tell people that you try and have the conversation before you even get there, so that you are, even though what matters is in the moment, the consent. I try to advise people. My final words would be regarding a lot of unlearning, right? I think that the greatest difficulty we have with this sexual harassment, rape culture, all these conversations is that the culture has moved a lot from how we were brought up and the things that we considered normal. We grew up in a generation where boys would hit girls on the bum and run. We grew up in a generation where people would put a mirror on their shoes to look at that girl's skirts. We grew up in a generation where people did things, right? And I'm not people. I'm not people, but things happened a lot. And the reason why we have so much pushback whenever this conversation comes up is that empathizing these stories, reckoning or acknowledging the things that a lot of us have done in the past that are wrong. So I would say that when you're approaching this conversation, approach the conversation with a list. Approach this conversation ready to unlearn. There are so many things that we think of when we think of sexual harassment that are not like that. Rape is not always violent. Arousal is not consent. Men can be raped. There are so many different aspects to it that are valid conversations that we need to have, and that require us to learn certain things and relearn certain things. Additionally, don't use the law as your main justification for the things you are doing. Don't be a 21-year-old speaking to a 15-year-old, waiting for her to turn 16 so you can sleep with her. Right? Don't be that person. Don't be that person. Work within the moral ambits of what is good and what is right. And at all times, assume enthusiastic consent. Even for the smallest of things. I've seen people get angry that why would you ask me to kiss me and things that I'm like, no, it's relevant. It's relevant. So get consent, get enthusiastic consent. And that is the best form of reproductive health. Yes.
Thank you, Kekeli. Thank you once again, Edwina.
Sure.
This has been a very educative conversation. And thank you too, my lovely viewers. Thank you for joining us once again on Room 1221 Live. If you have any questions or if you're going through anything and you need help, do not hesitate to reach out to us on 1221, and we'll always be here for you. And we'll always have resource people for you as well. Once again, I have been your host, Ivy. It's been great chatting with you. I'll catch you on our next episode. Goodbye.
Room 1221. Room 1221.